that baby might not be able to live. And I know what you guys are probably thinking, oh, it's just two guys, they don't know anything about it. You're right. We don't know. We'll never know what it's like to give birth. We'll never know what it's like to be in that situation, but we do know that murder is wrong.
Dude, let's study into it a little deeper.
Let's do it. What's up, guys? Welcome back to PurelyChristians. We have Purely Lee here.
Purely Lee? No, just Lee. But
Just Lee?
Yeah.
I think Just Lee is the same as saying Purely Lee, because it's Just Lee, it's Purely Lee, nothing else.
You know, when you're born with a name that is at the end of every adjective, you just like...
Purely.
Yeah, there you go.
Christians.
Yeah.
Okay,
You get the
anyways.
idea.
Speaking of being born, that ties right into the video.
How
Good job,
about that?
Lee.
Oh yeah. So we wanted to say something very important.
Okay.
Okay, and I think we can wrap it up and make this just the shortest video that we've got.
Okay.
Murder is very bad.
Lee's purely stupid.
Well, I might be too.
But that point was right. So we're talking about abortion, and you probably see all kinds of thumbnails that got you on here angry or just very interested. One of the two. So we're talking about abortion and just a Christian's response to abortion. We know all kinds of people could be watching this video, and we want to say first off that we come, with good intentions. We don't come just trying to fight or tease people or name people or say, we don't care about situations that people have gone to that could be leading up to a pregnancy at all. But we do still want to stand on the truth, and stand on what it is that God wants us to stand on. But we want to kind of unwrap that. And so what we're really wrapping up is we're just going through one point here and then addressing a couple of things that get said in response to that. But abortion. Abortion would say that it is murder because abortion is ending a life. Murder is ending a life. If you end a life, you're killing someone. You're ending that life. And you're ending that life because from the moment of conception, it's a life. Because how does it grow if it's not life? And from conception, it starts to grow. So from conception, it's a life. And if you end that life at any point from conception, it's murder.
And I think that's where a lot of the argument is in the world right now is where does life begin and when can we define that? And there's some that they'll say, well, life begins when a thing is born, or life begins when there's a heartbeat, or life begins when there's brain activity.
Or life begins when it starts growing, right?
Life begins at conception because that is when that single cell begins to grow, divide, turns into a clump of cells, but it's still alive from the first point.
Yeah.
And to say that a single cell isn't alive is to, I've got a little bit of a cold today. That's to say that this cold that's bothering me isn't alive. Well, I can attest it is very much alive, and it does bother me. But I think we've got to be clear on that that's why any point after conception where you're ending that life, it is murder in God's eyes.
Yeah, when you end a life, it's murder. Now, there's all kinds of things that get said to that. There's all kinds of reasons why people kind of justify that. So I want to jump into some of them. So one thing a lot of people like to say is they are pro what?
Choice.
Right? Or pro-life, either way. But objecting to this, say just that, right? The pro-choice. What do pro-choice people say? Just wrap it up.
Basically, that the woman has a right to decide what she does with her own body.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably the best way to explain it.
The quickest way to just, respond to that is, what about the body of that child, right? Not to say that we don't care about that woman, or we don't care what they have to go through. We absolutely do, but we care about everybody, and we're also thinking about that baby. We're thinking about the choice of that baby girl or baby boy, and what it is, that their choice and the choice that they don't have. I know if I was in any situation where my life could have been terrible, I still would make the choice to live, but no one would have known that at the time. Another thing that people say a lot is, well, it's just a what?
A clump of cells.
Yeah, or it's just
We hear that a lot.
Yeah.
Or it's just a fetus.
Yeah.
Or it's a parasite. I've heard people call them parasites.
Well, I'd say to that, you're a clump of cells. You're a fetus. And jokingly, I might even say, well, you're a parasite. But I don't know, that one will go as well. I just make that joke because Lee said it. But are we not a clump of cells, just grown more? Are we not a fetus, just growing more? So to take that logic, I guess we're aborting everybody now, right?
Yeah, and that's a scary door to open up. Is when do you draw the line?
Yeah. Like, how much does that fetus have to grow? Well, that fetus has grown this much. So if it's only grown this much, then that's okay. Okay, so it's growing, so it's alive. So it's okay to take the life if it's only this far along, and that's just murder.
I would say that the next thing that we hear probably most often is, well, what about in the case of rape? Mm-hmm. And let's be clear. We do not want to justify the terrible action that is rape.
Yeah.
It is a vile, disgusting thing that happens in this world. But we do not want to continue or have people continue the line of terrible decisions, what happens after that. So.
Yeah, I know. Now, some people might say, well, then you're just going to say they should be forced to give birth. And I want to say two things, and I want to make the answer to that the second one. So I want to say one thing first, and then we're going to get to that. So if you can stay with me through that. Is say that situation happens, right? I'm ready to beat up the guy who did it, absolutely. But, Lee will come with me. But, say that someone after that went home to the house of that guy. He had a son, right? Blue-eyed, blonde-haired son, and took that son's life. How would that make any sense?
It wouldn't.
Not at all. What did that boy have to do with that, right? What did this, boy or girl, this child that's going to be born from this have to do with that? They're the result, and you end up in that situation. So now you ask the question, so they just forced to give birth. I like to say it like this. What would you do to save the life of one person? We see people who have kidney transplants because somebody needs a kidney and they're going to die if they don't have the kidney. You're the perfect match, you're the perfect blood type, all of those, everything lines up, and you could save the life of that person. Would you do it? The situations where someone needs a bone marrow transplant and you're the only person, it's painful, it's an extremely painful thing, it's a dangerous thing, but if this person doesn't get it, they could die. And a lot of people in a heartbeat say, yes, I would. This is what I would do to save life. I would have this kidney transplant. I would have that bone marrow transplant. Anything could go wrong in it. It's going to be painful, but I'm going to do that to save a life. What would you do to save a life? Would you go through that kidney surgery? Would you go through that bone marrow surgery and transplant? Would you give birth to save a life that could be ended?
The point behind that being, it's about sacrifice. And people every day sacrifice parts of their body, sacrifice their money, their time to save the life of another human being. And when you're put in that situation, even though it was terrible how you got there, you have the opportunity to be the most Christ-like you possibly can be and save the life of another human being. And that's the point.
See, it drives me nuts that someone may be in that point. It drives me nuts that that's going on, but what drives me nuts more is the fact that that baby might not be able to live. And I know what you guys are probably thinking, oh, it's just two guys, they don't know anything about it. You're right. We don't know. We'll never know what it's like to give birth. We'll never know what it's like to be in that situation, but we do know that murder is wrong. Some people might say, well, that baby's going to have a terrible life. It's going to be so horrible that what if they're going to be sick and go through all these things, have all these disabilities? How many stories do we have of somebody overcoming their disabilities? Their physical disabilities. I was one of those kids. I see a lot of kids like that. But what we have to realize is even with those disabilities, no one's better off dead.
Yeah. And I would say that if you're a church leader and you're dealing with someone in your congregation, that you do have to be firm on that stance. You do have to practice church discipline sometimes. We would like for everyone to make the right choice and do the right thing, but we know that we live in a terrible world that's all sorts of messed up, and sometimes we do have to practice good leadership and good church discipline.
Even though it might be legal in that sense, it's still murder. If they murdered, but legally, well, they were allowed to murder, what would you do within your congregation? That's exactly what's happening here.
And I know that it's a heavy topic. It's hard to discuss in most situations, but sometimes those things need to be brought up. And I would say that we, as Christians, we've got a moral obligation, and I think we have a duty to alleviate those fears and to provide an alternative.
Now that we depressed you guys out enough, let's give joy for again on Purely Christians. But if you have questions about this because you're trying to talk to somebody and stop this, or maybe you're that person and you're in this situation and you don't know what to do, you know how to get a hold of us, PurelyChristians@gmail.com. Please email us. We'd love to talk to you and help you out with the situation, help you figure out how to get through it. I know we're just a bunch of guys, but we know some women who are awesome women that can talk to you and help you through that as well. If you'd like to talk to a woman and be more comfortable with that, reach out to us and we'll put you in contact with one of our friends here in the church in this area, and they can talk to you, or we can both talk to you, however you want, and we'll just definitely give you the help that you need to figure out the next thing to do. So, and we love you. And we love that kid that's coming, and we love to help you guys in any way possible. So, I think.
With that being said,
yep,
we are purely stupid. No, purely Christians.
The catfish.
Purely Christians.
Yep. I'm Matt. This is Lee. We are Purely Christians, and
nothing else.
There we go.